You can't do any potatoes in there. You know, you're limited. You can't do any potatoes in there. You know, you're the maintenance. I want you to really think hard about this. It's not necessarily a problem. Those are challenges. Those are opportunities, right? But you guys got to think about who is going to take care of this stuff. Like, I'm telling you, there's less labor, there's more labor. You can make it hard on yourself, you can make it easy on yourself. But you got to think about, you know, labor is half the cost of doing business. And you really need to think long and hard about, okay, we've picked this great, awesome stuff to do, but do we have the people to do it? And are they competent enough to do it? And will they commit to it? I've seen too many people just start something because everyone's excited, and I love the enthusiasm. And I don't like to micromanage people. I like them to make their own mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And I've had them come back to me and say, boy, we bit off way more than we could chew. Now we got to scale it back. That's why I always say start small and get smaller, to just show yourself the first year, what can I handle? And I just want to throw that out there. And then next year you can keep expanding it. But that first out of the gate, make sure you've got the labor thing that you really thought long and hard about, okay? So it's probably not going to happen, but I would love to see just one of these pads gone, so that you could connect part of this greenhouse directly to the soil. Now there is a drainage system I can see there that's, I'm not sure even how thick this pad is, but there's soil beneath here that I would love to see you guys have a little access to. And then, like I said, you could connect trays that would hang, well, you got hanging opportunities already right here, and you could hang a tray right here that would allow you to do stuff up here in these baskets beyond just ferns. You could do all your lettuces. You know, lettuces are cold tolerant. Most species of lettuce will grow, as long as you keep it above freezing in here, you can have fresh lettuce grown in here. So I consider greens, herbs. Again, my dream would be to chunk out part of this for soil access, but if that's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. And you could also get a grant. Hopefully, this would cost a little money, but you guys or some other future group of you, if Prairie Point could get a grant for an aquaponics tank, I think up in, if you guys want to take, if you ever took a field trip to Central City High School up the road, they have the FFA program up there where they put in an aquaponics tank. Vinton High School, I was just in Shellsburg, up the road from Shellsburg, Vinton FFA put in a greenhouse too, you could visit. There are a few other schools around here doing something similar, taking advantage of this, and you know, you might want to reach out to those folks and see the challenges that they had, how they overcame them, what they're actually growing year round. You know, you're going to be able to in the spring, winter, in about, let's see, February, when you guys get back from Christmas break actually, you could already starting to grow some stuff in here for next spring. All of your tomatoes and peppers and eggplant and herbs and stuff that need to start in the greenhouse, you could, you know, if it's going to stay, what's the temp on that, 70?
72.
Does that say 70?
72, yeah.
Wow, 72. You guys, it's like 20 degrees outside and there's 72 in here. And I would imagine that you guys are going to be able to regulate this to keep it at a temp, you know, that's going to provide, oh, there's water access right here, right?
Yep.
Hopefully this won't freeze. If we get a real cold snap, I'm wondering if this might freeze up.
Maybe we need to wrap that up.
I'm not sure how deep it goes, but if it stays, if it's going to be this temperature in here, you're not going to have frozen pipes. But you know, I'd err on the side of caution. So who monitors this? You guys just come in and kind of tweak it?
Well, that's where we want to pick your brain and maybe connect with some of those other schools who are, because it can't be, we're trying to figure out a management plan so that it's not one person's job or one team, and how to organize that exactly.
So this has a thermostat. Okay. Okay. To keep it at 72 all winter, you're going to be burning up a lot of gas, you know. So it might be interesting to play around with. I just love doing control groups where you experiment with this temperature and see how that works, and then, because you could go up higher, which I wouldn't suggest needing to do. I would actually suggest that you could get away with keeping the thermostat a lot lower than 72 in here,
Right.
and still be pretty successful with keeping stuff alive. Like I said, a lot of stuff only needs to stay above freezing, to tell you the truth. But then again, that assumes that you're connected more to the soil temperature as well. But the exhaust, you can see that exhaust keeps, or keeps opening up and stuff. That's great, because that's a naturally occurring effect of keeping that flow of air going through here. Gotta keep the air moving. Remember, oxygen has to flow up here, but oxygen has to flow with the soil too, or the soil gets anaerobic and dies. So you got to have this constant cycle flowing. What do you think? Let me throw this out there to you guys. Do you think that this whole idea I have of trying to convince somebody to get access to the soil, is that a wasted thought, or could you? Oh, here's another thought. Besides chunking up the soil or the cement, how about bringing in? Oh, I just thought of something I think might work. You guys could go to Lynn County Solid Waste Agency that I work at. Every May I do all the 6th grade field trips there. For free, and a ton at a time. You load up your pickup truck, you come over here with several tons, and that sounds like a lot, but a ton is not that much. You could build a little cold frame box, or a raised bed box on one of these slabs, and put it full of really good organic matter, okay? And then you could grow some stuff. Most vegetables don't have really deep root systems. Most of them are only about 8 to 10 inches. There are some that go deeper, but you could have a box in here that would have at least a little bit of what I'm talking about, where you could grow some stuff on the ground. I want you to just maximize your space utilization here. You don't want to waste any space, and right now there's a lot of space that could be filled with plants that just sitting here getting heated, and you're not using it. So if you threw down some soil on a slab here, Will Allen does that. He'll go into an urban ag project in Chicago or Milwaukee or these places, these urban blight areas where they're abandoned, vacant lots, and pretend that this was just a vacant lot. He would come in and just throw down a bunch of organic matter and start farming. He wouldn't even chunk the cement out. It's not ideal, but it still would be workable. And I think it might be worth your while to put some soil on the ground here someplace.
So there are some plants that wouldn't be able to survive in here because of the lack of or pollination?
Well, unless they're a self-pollinating variety, they wouldn't work in here. So that's why down in Washington County, they had that problem this summer where they selected. And again, that's the that's the teachable moment. They put in stuff that they realized, oh, nothing is pollinating because we don't have pollinators. You can introduce some pollinators into a greenhouse, but I don't know if it depends on what you want to put in here. Remember, even a fly is a pollinator. Flies are annoying, but they are also pollinators too. Bees, butterflies, of course, birds. I don't know if you want birds flying. That'd be actually kind of cool to have some birds flying around here, nesting. So get out of the mindset too. It doesn't have to be just botany. You could do some, for lack of a better word, livestock here. You could do some, definitely worms. Will always taught me worms are your livestock. You could do, I'm just dreaming. Yeah, a little netted area of butterflies. Oh, that would be so cool. A little tiny, okay, I'm just gonna throw that out there and dream big. A little tiny chicken coop. You guys, it would be so awesome to have a tiny, some chicken coops are so, tiny, and you could have just a few hens giving you eggs and some broiler meat. That would be a blast. They're legal in the city. Cedar Rapids was way ahead of Iowa City. You guys legalized urban chickens before we did. So, any principal lady would let me bring in a goat. That's not gonna happen.
That'd be awesome.
But look at all these cross beams that can hold a lot of weight. You know, if you fill up trays of soil up above our heads here, you'd have to find a way, of course, to water it. The water has to drain. You can't just have roots. Remember, roots can't just be sitting in muck. They have to. They have to have. Everything has to have a drainage capacity. There you go.
Now my arm is all wet.
Yeah. And gravity is your drainer. That's why anytime I do a garden, I always put it on a slight little slope. You never want to put a garden in a bowl, because when it rains, it's just going to sit there and muck, and that's when you get a lot of blight and fungal and just, you know, lots of blight problems when leaves are too wet and roots are too wet. Everything's got to drain. So your trays, if you put trays up here, you'd have them at a slight angle so that when you did water them, the roots would absorb the water molecules, but everything then would still go down into a drainage system, and then recycle that water, bring it back up, you know, as long as it's not freezing. But I'd suggest, yeah, you could get away with, look, you guys, we've been in here for 10 minutes. It already went from 72 to 80 just because of our body heat. Check that out. That's awesome. Like at the Lynn County Solid Waste Agency, we have these big long thermometers that are like, seriously like 4 feet long. And when you go up on the compost pile, it'll be like 60 degrees outside in the spring, and I'll plunge that thermometer into the core of the big windrow, and it goes from 60 to 150 in like 10 seconds. It goes, because as organic matter is decomposing, it's releasing heat. So we're releasing heat right now. It already went up 8 degrees in 10 minutes. That's awesome. So to heat your greenhouse, just have people
Stand
in
out
here. You know? Try to think of energy that's free, is all I'm saying, instead of spending money. I just heard something kick off. That must have been the fan, or the, what just kicked off?
There's this hot dog. Hot dog?
The what? Hot dog?
The brand name is Hot Dog.
Oh, in here.
Oh, down here.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god, yeah.
Hot dog. Hot dog.
Dog.
Wow.
There's no hot dog.
Hot dog.
Well, I'm very envious of this, you guys. If I had this at home, I probably would be living in here. I mean, this is so awesome. I'd be spending a lot of time in here in the winter, you guys.
We probably should have been watering while we were out here.
Yeah, looks like some of this stuff is, you know, you can always, I take my knife out every time I go out to a garden and everyone says, oh, the soil is dry. I'm like, well, wait, time out. Maybe it looks dry on top, and it is, but if you take a knife, like my pen knife here, and you go down, look, it looks dry right here, of course, right? Some people look at the surface and they go, oh, it's dry, you gotta water. I'm like, no, not necessarily. Because the plants will tell you, they'll talk to you, they'll tell you when they're stressed. Right now, they're not stressed because it's dry here, but if I go just a little bit below, that's wet. So I went down this far on the knife and all the root systems are getting total access to water. You know, people overwater, typically, in my experience. You know, and when you water, you want to water a deep, deep soak. You don't just want to sprinkle it. You want one big deep soak, and that deep soaks can sometimes take you for almost 2 weeks out, especially if we have a big rain outside. A good soaker rain means that I don't have to water the garden sometimes for almost 2 weeks. And I always want to monitor, when I see cracks in the garden, I go, yeah, it looks dry, and it's dry like that far. But then I get down below the crack, and I realize the roots are just fine. There are some edibles in here. You got some herbs here. Some parsley. Got some basil I saw, of course.
Over there, that looks
Yeah.
kind of wilty.
Got some German chamomile.
Most of what's out here are plants that people brought in from home for overwintering.
Yeah, I'd say though that today someone should come out here and probably give us a nice drink. Looks like on some stuff at least.
We probably have the students have to get back to their next
Okay,
class.
yeah. Well,
But
thanks again, you guys. It's
thank
been
you
wonderful
so
meeting with you.
much.